Good day everyone. My name is RYANRUIZ and I am going to report to you all about Behaviorism of Edward Tolman and Albert Bandura. Who is Edward C. Tolman? Best known for cognitive behaviorism, his research on cognitive maps, the theory of latent learning, and the concept of an intervening variable. Tolman was born on April 14, 1886 and died on November 19, 1959. Albert Bandura. He is an influential social cognitive psychologist who is perhaps best known for his social learning theory, the concept of self-efficacy, and his famous bubble doll experiments. He is a professor emeritus at Stanford University and is widely regarded as one of the greatest living psychologists. What is neo-behaviorism? Neo-behaviorism is a behavior cannot be fully understood simply in terms of observable stimuli and reactions. Neo-behaviorism introduced mediating variables into the behaviorist stimulus-response scheme. Focus of neo-behaviorism. Like Thorndike, Watson, and Pavlov, the neo-behaviorists believe that the study of learning and a focus on rigorously objective observational methods are crucial to a scientific psychology. Unlike their predecessors, however, the neo-behaviorists are more self-consciously attempting to formalize the laws of behavior. Difference between behaviorism and neo-behaviorism. Neo-behaviorism bridges the gap between behaviorism and cognitivism. Unlike their predecessors, however, the neo-behaviorists are more self-consciously attempting to formalize the laws of behavior. Neo-behaviorism is associated with a number of scholars such as Tolman, Hall, Skinner, Hebb, and Bandura. Tolman's purposive behaviorism. It is also been referred to as sign learning theory and is often united between behaviorism and cognitive theory. Tolman believed that learning is a cognitive process. Learning involves forming beliefs and obtaining knowledge about the environment and then revealing the knowledge through purposeful and goal-directed behavior. Tolman's key concept. So there are 5 Tolman's key concepts. The first one is learning is always purposive and goal-directed. The second one, cognitive map. The third one, latent learning. And the fourth one, the concept of interesting variable. And lastly, reinforcement not essential for learning. Meaning to say, Tolman believed individuals do more than merely respond to stimuli. They act on beliefs, attitudes, changing conditions, and they strive toward goals. Tolman is virtually the only behaviorist who found the stimulus response theory unacceptable because reinforcement was not necessary for learning to occur. Albert Bandura's social learning theory. Social learning theory focuses on the learning that occurs within a social context. People learn from one another such as observational learning, imitation, and modeling. General principles of social learning theory. So there are 4 GPSLT. The first one is learn by observing. Number 2, learning can occur through observation alone without a change in behavior. Number 3, cognition plays a role in learning. And number 4, transition between behaviorism and cognitive learning theory. So, what does general principles of learning theory means? So, this theory means that posits that learning is impacted by our environments and the interactions that we have. This learning theory, which is also known as observational learning, focuses on how humans can learn through observation and imitation. So I'll give you an example of general principles of social learning theory. So one of these is learn by observing. For example, me. I want to learn how to make a national costume or any kind of costume. So for me to learn on how to make costume, I need to observe those people who are making costumes. And with that, I will learn or I can make it on my own on how to make a costume. That's it. So next we have environment reinforces modeling. So there are four several possible ways. The first one is by the model, the second one by the third person, the third one by the imitated behavior itself produced satisfying, and lastly by the vicarious reinforcement. So how the environment reinforces the punishes modeling. People are often reinforced for modeling the behavior of others. Bandura suggested that the environment also reinforces modeling. The teacher notices this and compliments and praises the observer for modeling such behavior, thus reinforcing the behavior. Contemporary social learning perspective of reinforcement and punishment. The first one is contemporary theory purposes that reinforcement and punishment have indirect effects on learning. Number two, reinforcement and punishment influence the result of individuals' behavior that has been learned. And lastly, number three, the expectation of reinforcement influences cognitive processes. So next we have cognitive factors in social learning theory. So there are 5 factors in social learning theory. The first one is learning without performance. The second one, cognitive processing during. Number 3, expectations. Number 4, reciprocal causation. And lastly, modeling. So what does it mean? It means that it takes into account the mutual influences of the individual, the physical and psychosocial environment, and the task or behavior to be learned. All these factors are important in learning. Conditions necessary for effective modeling to occur. So there are 4 components. The first one is attention. The second one is retention. The third one is motor reproduction. And lastly, the fourth one, motivation. So what is attention? Attention. If an organism is going to learn anything from a model, he or she must be paying attention to it and the behavior it exhibits. Many conditions can affect the observer's attention. For instance, if the observer is sleepy, ill, or distracted, he or she will be less likely to learn the modeled behavior and imitate it at a later date. Next is retention. The second requirement of observational learning is being able to remember the behavior that was witnessed. If the human or animal does not remember the behavior, there is a less than probable chance that they will imitate it. Motor reproduction. This requisite of behavior concerns the physical and mental ability of the individual to copy the behavior he or she observed. For instance, a young child may observe a college basketball player dunk a ball. Later, when the child has a basketball, he or she may attempt to dunk a ball just like the college player. However, the child or the young child is not nearly as physically developed as the older college player, and no matter how many times he or she tries, will not be able to reach the basketball or the basket to dunk the ball. Motivation. Perhaps the most important aspect of observational learning involves motivation. If the human or animal does not have a reason for imitating the behavior, then no amount of attention, retention, or reproduction will overcome the lack of motivation. Bandura identified several motivating factors for imitation. These include knowing the model was previously reinforced for the behavior, being offered an incentive to perform, or observing the model receiving reinforcement for the behavior. These factors can also be negative motivations. So the reflection of this topic, the neo-behaviorism, is that learning is always purposive and goal-directed according to Tolman and Bandura. Cognitive process promotes learning to pupils. Teaching alternative new concepts, learner may have their interest to fill in the knowledge they want.